Okay, so pick up your microphone, hold it about right here, and test it. Just say something.
Something.
Okay, now say a full sentence.
A full sentence.
Okay, so we've got some tiny little microphones. They're new, and it was a prime opportunity to test them out for a tiny microphone interview. So I'm here with my mother today. If you guys have been following the channel, you know that we opened up a shop here on a little strip, and my parents opened up their own little thrift store right on the same strip. So today we're going to be talking to my mom a little bit about how they got started with that, what their previous business or like secondary business looks like, and just kind of her whole thought process on getting started with their own business. So, Mom, how are you liking being next door to me? That says a lot.
It's kind of fun because you kind of just pop in whenever.
And she pops in too, and I sell fudge, so she gets fudge whenever she wants, basically. This is not your guys' first business. Do you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about what your previous business was before this? And they're still kind of working on this one.
Hot mop waterproofing.
So before you put like tile on a shower, you have to waterproof it first. And they use a more traditional method of like, tar waterproofing. And that's something that they operate from out of state. And that's kind of what they started with.
And we're still doing that.
And they're still doing that. So this is just their secondary venture. Okay, so what made you want to open up a shop here in this town? I know you've mentioned that there was a need for something more affordable in the community. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
We started, doing garage sales like normal because we had stuff we didn't want. Every time we had a garage sale, we had people stopping me in the store. When are you doing another one? When are you doing another one? I need this or I need that.
I'll fix that.
That was the baby gate.
I kicked this little cart right here and it launched this baby gate thing forward. So these guys are pretty notorious here in our little town for running garage sales that are very, very affordably priced.
We kept having to wait on the weather to have a garage sale. We realized that people need stuff affordably all the time.
So for a little bit of context, we're kind of like an hour out from any big cities in our area. And there is a thrift store here that does sell like clothing and household goods and stuff, but it's the same story it is with every other thrift store that exists now. They are incredibly expensive. It's gone a lot higher than people can afford to kind of keep up with. And so when people are needing, I guess school clothes is a good example, especially if you have more than one kid, you need a place to go and get affordably priced clothing. And that thrift store just wasn't doing it for a lot of people. My mom actually had quite a bit of traction to her store recently because she is undercutting this thrift store in town by half price. And so people are able to come in and get school clothes for all of their kids at a price they can actually afford compared to the other options here in town.
Like the kids' clothes, we start at 25 cents, and that's for like socks, and we go up to $4 for kids, and that includes coats and shoes. But we did that because there's a lot of people that live here that are either seniors that are on a very limited income and may not have a way to go to town, or there's people that are working 2 or 3 jobs trying to work, but they just don't have a lot of extra.
And I expect that this place is going to start doing pretty well during the winter time. And obviously we'll have to wait and see because we've both only been in our spots for a couple months now. But during the winter time, our town really shuts down. Like anybody that's working their normal day job here, their hours are reduced. If there's something they're needing, they're going to be looking to get it on a budget. And so in our case, that works out really well because people need quick cash to get something. We do buybacks. And so people can bring things they're not using and make a little bit of money off of that. In my mom's case, I expect that her business is going to start doing very well because if people are needing household goods and they're not wanting to go and spend an arm and a leg at the bigger thrift shop here in town, they have another option. We had to take a small intermission because she had a customer come in. Is there anything since you've opened that has sold better than you were expecting it to?
Not really, because we sell a lot of DVDs, but we sold a lot of DVDs every time we had a garage sale. However, I did not change the price on them. They're still what they were at the garage sale.
Okay, so for me, DVDs was really, really surprising. I figured that kind of physical media might be, a little bit outdated. I didn't realize so many people were still using DVD players. So when you have people coming in, is there any demographic or like type of thing selling that is doing really, really well compared to other things? Like I know you said you've had a lot of parents coming in and getting like baby things.
Yes, and kitchen stuff.
See, all things that I was really surprised about.
A lot of people need pots and pans.
Hello, Dad. Okay, so when it came to putting this place together, jumping way back to the beginning.
Yes, we got the idea May 13th, and then I talked to you and you said, hey, this is coming available. Here's her number. Call her. So I texted her because she didn't answer the phone and told her we were interested in renting the spot, and she told me that nobody else had asked about it yet. So we got the spot. We got the keys on June 1st, patch the walls and paint and clean and did lighting, put up new shelving, the hanging rods, and got the Z-Racks and the register and all of that, and we opened July 1st.
So if you guys go back on our channel, you can actually see what this place looked like before they started like getting everything done to it, just like when they were clearing out all the old stuff. And the interesting thing is when Michael and I were figuring out what spot we were going to be getting into, there was actually 2 spots on this strip that were becoming available at the same time, because the business that was in my parents' spot before they were here, they had this spot and then they had our spot, and our spot was like a storage unit for them, like just for them to put extra inventory in. They ended up moving into a bigger place, and when Michael and I were looking for a spot, is between this one and then the spot that we're in right now. And so this spot was just sitting, and then they realized there was an opportunity with what they were doing before, and here they are. They've done great. They did great. How much of a role does donations play in keeping the spot open? I know you've told me how you get some of your inventory. Have you seen a pretty high volume of donations for this place?
We have people donate about once a day, sometimes twice a day. 1 or 2 people will come in every day.
So that's
usually.
one thing. So that's one thing that's pretty interesting about this small town is we have a larger chain thrift store here in town, but something that's really weird about them compared to some of their other chains out in bigger cities, they don't take donations. They used to, and then COVID happened, and then they stopped taking donations, which has worked really well in my parents' favor, because the only other place that you can really like donate to if you're thinking about donating to a thrift store is like an hour away if you have to drive to a bigger city to make those donations. So every once in a while, she'll call me over from my spot and be like, hey, you want to help me load some stuff into the car so we can go process it? And it's just people have dropped things off. And I assume that's been really helpful.
It really is helpful because the less we have to spend to get the things that people need, the lower we can keep our prices. And if people don't have to spend as much to get what they need, it leaves them extra to work with for food or an electric bill or to use at other businesses here.
What were some unexpected expenses that went into getting this place open? Like, I know obviously there's like the shelving and stuff, but
paint. We ran out of paint because you gifted us your leftover paint, and then we thought we were going to have enough to do it, and we ran out right in the middle of it. So
these walls have the same texture that our little shop does, and they're like crazy absorbent. Like somebody used drywall mud to give them a texture, and so they were just soaking up paint like nobody's business. I think we had to do 3 coats over in ours for it to actually cover the color.
Yeah, and ours was like green and yellow before, so it took a lot more to cover it.
When it comes to like growing in the future, I know you've talked about maybe looking into doing like a trade-in program for children's clothing. Do you want to talk a little bit about what inspired you to start thinking in that direction and what kind of, hopes you have for that?
When you were a baby,
I was a cute baby, but I was a fat baby.
You went through clothes really quick. There's a children's resale place I used to go to that for a long time it was like we could take down the clothes that were too small and trade them in, and she would give us like 70% of what she could sell them for and store credit so we could bring in what was too small and leave with things that fit. The way she did it, it helped us a lot. And that was kind of why I chose to do the kids stuff, especially cheaper.
And that probably helped her out a lot too, because when you think about like how much donations have helped your storefront, for her from a business perspective, that inventory cost goes away when people are bringing things back. And so, it goes both ways. It helps her out, but it also helps out her customers as well.
So that is something I would like to do in the future. I'm just still trying to figure out how, and I think I may call her and pick her brain of how do I do it.
So one of the things that's really been helpful for us in our spot is getting a hold of other people that are kind of like doing the same thing further out from us, so that they can kind of help point us in the right direction. And luckily, we've been able to meet a couple people that were really open to sharing, the business practices that worked out for them. And that's been really huge. And it sounds like regardless of niche, that's a really good thing to be able to, lean on, is other people that are doing something really similar, so you can learn from what they're doing and whether or not it's been successful for them, and maybe even some of their mistakes. And so long term, the idea is hopefully to be able to get into a position where you can recreate something similar up here.
Right. Just to kind of take some of the weight off of the people that are struggling.
So do you think you're going to need a bigger spot to do that? Because I know our spot is about 220 square feet. And I think this is just a little bit bigger.
Right at 200.
Right at 200? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Okay, so maybe ours is a little bit bigger. We have that kind of like L-shaped sort of thing around the side. Are you feeling like you might need a bigger space to make something like that happen? Or are you thinking you could make something like that happen here?
I think I can make it happen here. I just have to strategically stock stuff. Because of the fact that it's small, we have to restock daily. But if I stock correctly, after having all four of you guys, I learned to pack a lot in a little bit of space.
They've done really well with this space. I don't know what I was expecting when they started to put this place together, but they really optimized the height of their, and you'll obviously see some clips of this, but they optimized the height on the edges as opposed to like spreading everything out in the middle, and they've really made it work out for them. It's a little claustrophobic, but it works.
Say somebody's looking for 2T pants. We have enough room that they'll be able to find something.
So you kind of have your store split into two halves. You have your clothing wall, and then you have a section that's more for household goods. Is there one side that you see do better than the other? Do you see your clothing do better, or
it's pretty equal?
Just a little bit of everything?
Yeah, it depends on what somebody needs.
Well, and that's one of the things that we've noticed in our store is it's not one thing that's making it do well. It's a combination of a bunch of things that are just doing a little bit. So not, one thing isn't selling out, but it's a lot of little things that are getting a little bit of traction that all adds up. So that's really cool.
We have people that will ask for stuff that they do need. Like, we had somebody that was looking for a heater because they're living in a camper and they need it. Mm-hmm. I didn't have any here, but
there's some at the house.
Yeah.
So they have something really unique going for them, and it's the fact that they have a really big garage. So even though they're working with a really small storefront, they have space to store extra inventory. And like she was saying, she can bring new inventory in every day. So if they don't have something on hand, there's a pretty good chance they have it in their back stock.
Yeah. So I was able to take the person's number and their name and go home and pull what was needed. And so I came back the next day with 3 little heaters, and gave her a call and said, "Hey, you were looking for a heater. I've got 3 in stock." And she said, "Okay, I'm going to come down."
So when it comes to inventory and just processing your inventory, is your light still on, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to processing inventory, obviously people are dropping donations off here. What does your processing look like? I know, obviously you have to take it home, wash it, etc. What does that look like?
I take it home. We wash all of the clothes. So when they come in here, they're clean. We wash all of the dishes, anything, anything fabric gets washed, anything not fabric gets either washed by hand or a heater. Obviously, it can't be washed, but we do clean it.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that's like electronic, we test it.
So there was
to
another.
make sure that we're not selling something that does not work.
So there was another thrift shop down on the back side of town, and they actually recently shut down within the last, I think maybe 2 to 3 months now. And one thing, it was actually one that me and Michael worked at briefly. One thing I noticed is that when they were processing their stuff, they were putting things out on the shelf that were not clean, were broken, they weren't in one piece. I think that has contributed here to an overall sense of like, you're going in and it doesn't smell like a thrift store where nothing's been washed, and it doesn't look like something where, you threw junk out on the shelves. You come in here and there's a collection of everything, but it's a clean collection of everything.
Yeah. We try to make sure we check over everything. We try to make sure nothing's broken, everything's in working shape. We're not selling clothes that are stained or have holes in them or zippers don't work, or we try to make sure that everything's functional, that it can be used by another person.
So I know at this point in time, you're not accepting furniture donations and stuff just because this place is so small. There's just no way to present something like that, really. If you were to move into a bigger space, do you think you guys would grow more in the furniture direction, or do you think you would continue to just use that space to expand on what you're already doing?
If we were to move to someplace bigger, I think we would include some furniture because it's something that people still need.
So maybe expanding your inventory a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, is there any closing ideas you'd like to discuss?
I can't think of anything.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll do a 6-month interview as well, and we can see what's changed between now and then. But thank you for joining me today, Mom. I will allow you to go back to your work now.
Okay.
And I'll go back to my store. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed today's video and want to see more content like this in the future, subscribe and stay tuned.